All right, thank you, and welcome to our annual required budget hearing for the 2026-2027 budget. So we're going to go over a few things, well, several things, but the first thing we're going to go over is required by the act is to discuss the millage rates that we're going to levy next year. This is something that we see every year, so we have several different millages. We have our operating millage, 18 mills. Now that's only levied on second homes, vacation homes, businesses. The recreation millage, which is a pass-through from the city. We collect those funds and send them back to the city. They spend those on the parks and recreation facilities around town. And then you'll see we have 4 debt millages, the 2004, 2010, 2018, and the newly passed 2025 debt. You'll notice, just as a note, the 2010 debt you'll see is the smallest number up there. The reason being is that this coming year is the final payment on that debt, and that will be dropping off. We'll be utilizing the funds received for that, in addition to fund equity we have in the debt fund. Um, and that's how we were able to structure and have and pass that zero increase bond. So as that one falls off after next year, we add the 2025 debt to our load and keep going. Some assumptions that we have made on the revenue side of the budget include pupil count, and as you know, we don't and we won't know our final pupil count for next year until after October, when we have our fall count, which is blended with this past February's count. We have budgeted currently in the projected budget a flat enrollment. That is our current blended enrollment from the 25-26 year, the 4,868 FTEs. Again, we do not have a state budget again this year. However, all 3 parts of the legislature have recommended a $250 per pupil increase from $10,050 to $10,300. So we have included that in our initial projection. So that comes out to about a 2.5% increase. A couple other things of note: the MEPSR's retirement rate is planning to decrease next year. There's 2 components to that. There's the normal pension cost, which is going down to almost 2.5%, and that other one, the UAL, which we love acronyms. It's the unfunded portion of the pension system, so all the districts share in helping to make that whole. That is a pass-through. Those are pass-through funds. So I separated those out because while the entire retirement number is going down almost 4%, the UAL number does not affect our bottom line at all. We receive those funds from the state through our state aid, and we turn around and send them right back to the retirement board. So we'll feel about a 2.5% decrease in the retirement rate that the general fund pays for. We've planned federal revenue flat this year to last year, and the reason for that is we only recently, you can see June 4th, estimated allocations for our title grants were released. Just a little too late. We had already completed the projected budget, so that's something that we will pick up in the First Amendment in December. But again, federal revenue has a zero effect on the fund balance. Money in is money out. So once again, there'll be some changes as to staffing and things that we purchase through title, but at this time, we just planned it flat. It was just an unknown at the time. The next couple slides I'm going to show you are just kind of summarize some of the things that we talked about. I'd like to show the most recent 10 years history on both foundation allowance and enrollment at the district. So you can see our foundation allowance 10 years ago was about $7,500, all the way up to the projected $10,300 amount. I know I've got to maybe chop a year off because it does get a little confusing at the end of that graph. But the reason I wanted to point this out, because people might not be aware, is $250 increase, big, small, the same, average, whatever. On average, post-COVID, so I looked at all of our increases from the prior year. The district was averaging about a $340 increase in state aid year over year. That includes the $0 increase we received 2 years ago. So you can see the $250 amount that's being proposed this year falls a little under the, we'll call it 5 or 6 year average, most recent. That combination combined with the $0 increase received a few years ago kind of gives you an idea of how far behind schools feel that they are in terms of state funding. And then the next slide will show the student count in the same 10-year period. And then I really just kind of focus on those post-COVID numbers again because the world just is different since that event. Um, You'll notice that big jump between 21-22 and 22-23. That's when our shared time program really took off and has really helped stabilize enrollment. Jackson's no different than most districts around the state. We are a declining enrollment district. That program helps us to stabilize. And as you can see, over the last 4 to 5 years, we've been pretty flat within 10 to 12 FTEs, which is just not very material on a $75 million budget. So that's why we are fairly confident, at least at this early stage, in just budgeting a flat enrollment for next year until we have those count enrollment numbers in the fall. On the expenditure side, a few assumptions that we've made. Again, in terms of health insurance, we won't receive our renewals for 2027 until September-ish, and then we'll have open enrollment in, I believe, November for a January start date. So there's a lot of variables and unknown as far as healthcare costs. We've been hearing renewals are coming in double-digit increases again. So we budgeted a 10% increase. We know the hard cap, which is the amount a district is allowed to pay towards the medical portion of health insurance, is increasing by 3% starting in January. So the district is allowed to pay 3% more on the medical side. And then we anticipate dental and vision and some of those ancillaries going up another 7%. So again, we're projecting a 10% increase, but again, we'll have better numbers in our December and March amendments as those expenditure pictures become a little clearer. Again, I just kind of broke down that retirement rate decrease that we talked about earlier in the presentation. So just so you can see the whole 3.91% compared to the current year, but the actual decrease that we'll feel is closer to that 2.5%. And then one other item of note, the district does have 3 union contracts that expired at the end of this year. We put placeholders in next year's budget, but we're in the process of negotiations right now. So again, we'll be able to true that up at the First Amendment in December. So just to summarize for the general fund, we are projecting almost $76.5 million of revenue, about $77.5 million of expenditures. So that would look at the district using a little over $1 million of fund balance. And then just a few notes on the fund balance picture. If you remember from last year, last June when we came to the board, we projected to use $2 million of fund balance for this coming year. A little later tonight, we'll be able to give you a final amendment number, and it's a lot better than that $2 million that we came to the board with a lot of unknowns last June, right? Also keep in mind that we want to try to keep to that 15% fund balance amount. If you see at the bottom here, what we're projecting, if everything holds true to what we're saying tonight, which we know it won't, we'd be looking at an 18% fund balance at the end of 26-27, well above that 15% threshold. Just shows that we do have a good handle on the budgeting and being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars here in the district. The next slide I wanted to show you, and you've seen some of these in years past, I wanted to graphically show you that fund balance history over the same 10-year period. The blue line is where JPS's fund balance has gone historically. That red line is if we were just at 15%, that's where we would be. So you can see during those ESSER years, our plan was to save and bank as much as we could, so we would be able to live off of those, for several years in the future, as we don't know what the future holds, and we've already seen, many different things since those funds have ended. So as you can see, in the last few years, we have been using our fund balance as we said we would, but still maintaining, I would say, a healthy amount over that 15% to not have to worry about borrowing for daily daily operations and things like that. And then on the last slide on this part of the presentation, just a quick note on some of the other funds that the district handles. So we have a food service fund, so that handles all the student nutrition revenue and expenditures. That's completely separate from the general fund. It's a self-sustaining fund. Notes we've talked about in the past, we're a CEP district, so we offer free breakfast and lunch to everybody in the district, regardless of household income status. Student activity funds, those would be all the funds that students across the district fundraise for different purposes. We're just, we really just hold on to those funds in a bank account and write the checks for what the purpose of whatever they're fundraising for. We're again, just a guardian of the funds. We don't do anything with them. We have a fund for each of our debt issues, so those would just be to hold the money and pay the bills for the principal and interest payments each year. And then we have several different capital projects funds. We have a fund for the EV bus project, a new fund set up for the capital projects for the new bond program. And then we have another facility improvement fund we started several years ago when the district was adding to fund balance. So if we ever had an emergency boiler we needed to replace, for instance, there's a little bit of money in there to make some of those emergency repairs that if you're not in a bond program or what have you, should the need arise. It's the end of that one, but I've got another document that we're going to go over that we also review every year. And so this is a little bit more into the numbers, right? This first sheet here gives a summary of all the different funds we just talked about, the general fund, the two different special revenue funds, food service and student activities, the debt service funds, the capital project funds. It'll break it down a little bit further of where that money comes from, whether it's property taxes, food sales, student fundraising, what have you. Same thing on the expenditure side. You'll have the most detail on the general fund just because there's a lot more activity that happens there as opposed to all the other funds. And it'll break it down between basic programs, which is your instruction, things like that, added needs, which is special ed and compensatory education, and then your non-instructional expenses. Down towards the bottom, you'll see that, again, where we're showing we're going to use a little over $1 million of fund balance, just kind of ties some of the numbers out from the previous presentation. And then we'll show some of that information a little differently. As you can see, this is where we get our money from. The biggest piece of that pie is state funding, or our state aid that we receive 11 months out of the year, and why that's so critical to receive a state budget on time so we can properly plan for the things we need to plan for. We do show on the bottom of this slide just comparative where our money came from this year, where we think it comes from, and how big of each piece of pie compared to what we're proposing next year. It's pretty similar, right? We're pretty level. About 70% of our money comes from the state. About 16 to 17% comes from property taxes. That's going to be both operating and that recreation millage that does go back to the city. It's all considered property taxes. So it may seem a little inflated by about $1 million or so for the recreational piece. And then what we receive in grant money, special ed money from the ISD, and other miscellaneous funds. In the next tab, it'll break it down even further. We'll actually compare the prior completed year, which was 24-25 on the far left, with our actual numbers compared with where we're projecting this year to be and next year to be. The dollar change on the far right is comparing our final budget for this year with our projected budget for next year. We scroll all the way down. Again, you'll see you'll see this a little later. So last year, if you remember, we wound up using a little over $3 million of fund balance as we restructured the district, did some staffing changes and things like that. This current year, we'll talk about it a little bit later. We're projecting to use about $1.4 million of fund balance. That goes back to that original projected number of $2 million we brought to you last June. And then the projected number for next year of that $1.1 million use of fund balance. The next two slides are going to show those expenditures again graphically. And you can see, our core mission here is to educate students, so it's appropriate that the bulk of our expenditures go to instruction. Instructional support combined are roughly 70% of the budget, both last year and this year, and that makes sense, and that's what the way it should be, right? And then you'll have everything else listed below. You can see all of the ancillary departments, transportation operations, administration. They seem like high dollar amounts, but when you break it down compared to the whole budget as a whole, you're talking single-digit percentages, and really in line with what a lot of districts do across the state. So that breaks it down by function, whether it's instruction, things like that. The next one's going to break it down by not by what it is, what function it is, but what exactly it is. So our main expense is people, right? It's labor, it's salary and benefits. And you can see the biggest piece of the pie is salary and benefits. So again, salary and benefits make up almost 70% of that budget. So we're really in line with that instructional piece, 70% of the budget. And, that holds true, within a 0.5% to next year. We're right about that 69.5 to 70% is just salary and benefits. We do, if you add in some of the contracted instructional people that we have, that brings it closer. When our auditors come in the fall, they'll say anywhere between 70 and 75% is where you usually spend on labor. If you add in the contracted staff, you're going to be pretty close to there, which is under purchase services. Not all of that number, but it is a piece of that. The next slide will really break these numbers down a lot further and confuse everybody. So you'll break it down even further. How much do we spend on elementary education, middle school, high school, and so on and so forth, special education. And that's where you come up, elementary, middle, high school, summer school, that is your basic programs. Your special ed and your compensatory ed is your added needs. And then it'll go down department by department. The Board of Education has a line item, which also includes the superintendent's office, in there as well. But again, when you get down to the bottom, you're going to see that the $77.5 million number that we've been talking about, and kind of show you just a little easier, other than the graphs, that 70% salary and benefits to total expenditures, and 75% salary and benefits are spent compared to our total revenue that we collect. And then you'll have similar looks. We'll have just single sheets to describe our other budgets. So this would be the food service budget. So same thing, our actual numbers from 2 years ago, our projected amended numbers for this year, and then what we're projecting for next year in the food service fund, the student activity fund, which again, we're just trustees of that money. We don't really plan to make a profit, or there is no profit or anything. We don't know what fundraisers are going to happen, so we usually plan that a zero effect on that budget, and whatever the actual activity is what it is. Our debt fund, same thing. So we project to collect $10.5 million in property taxes next year. We plan to pay out $14 million in debt payments. We're able to do that because we have a healthy fund balance in the debt fund of $5.3 million. And that's, again, goes back to how we're able to structure the bond to offer that to the voters at a zero increase by utilizing that fund, spending that fund balance down to pay off some of these older debt issues that will be going away, and be able to make the much needed improvements to the district. You'll have the budget for the capital projects fund. This one is a little thin on details, and that's mostly because we're just in the very beginning stages of the 2025 bond planning. We're starting our first projects this summer. We're starting our first month or two of interest, so we don't have a lot of historical data to really project out at this time. But this will show a lot more activity next summer when we come back for the following year's budget. The last few slides, if you've had a chance to look through them, just kind of go through and give you a short description of what all of those function means. What does it mean to be coded as an elementary expense versus what is compensatory education, what is special education? Some of those questions get answered in those last few slides. And that's really it for this presentation. So I wanted to share that information with you today. As I said, we went from $3.2 million last year. We feel like we're going to be about $1.4 million this year, and we're projecting $1.1 million next year. Kind of shows that trend where we feel like we're getting to a good spot. We're going to have, hopefully, if the state helps out, we'll be in a good position to get to a balanced budget sooner rather than later. And that would conclude my presentation of next year's proposed budget.
Any questions? So I have a question. Why is there a retirement decrease? The MISPERS, is that how you say it?
Yep. So every year, the retirement board, they base that on several factors: how the rate of return on their investments is. There's a bunch of actuarial assumptions that go into those calculations. Districts have no control over that. They have no say in that. It's all done at the state level. It'll depend on how many people are paying into it, how many people it's paying out to. There's a lot of different variables that go into that. And Sometimes that unfunded piece will change from year to year. Those are based off of, this is where you get into those timing issues of school fiscal years versus the state fiscal year. So those numbers are based on the most recently audited state fiscal year, which in our case would be October 1st of 2024 through September 30th of 2025 is the money we'll be receiving in 26, 27. So there's a big lag, but that's why we budget for that amount.
And then I have a question on this page right here. I was curious why revenues and other financing sources, when it says other local, we had like 2 million and now it's like a little bit over a million.
Yep, a big portion of that decrease, if you remember, we received a donation from the Glick family this past year, was around $900,000 for the lighting project, and that would be considered that other local. So if you take $900,000 off that, you're already at 1.5. We adjusted some of the projected interest that we're going to earn because we don't know what bank interest rates will be, and that gets you pretty close to where we're at for the projection.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any comments from the public? No? Then hearing none, then I will move on to our regular meeting. This meeting is closed. So welcome everybody here and virtually. I'm glad that you came. If you'd like to make a board comment, you can go down to the desk over there and fill out the form and then bring it over to our trusted secretary, Sarah. And I will call you up when it's the board comment time. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Our second order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Sarah, can you do roll call?
Ms. Hamilton,
Present.
Ms. Williams, Ms. Sharp, Mr. Dobies, Mr. Reddy, Ms. Acton.
Here. Agenda item number 4, approval of agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? So so is this deliberation? So am I going to make my, right now? Oh, so say my amendment.
Yes.
Okay, I have an amendment to our agenda to add agenda item 2526-114, appointment of a board member as an action item. So do I have to have a motion? Do I have support?
I'll second that.
Any?
I'd also like to move the
2526-107 Okay. Does he need support?
Yes.
Do we have support for that? Support. Any deliberation? So hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. At this time, number 5, I'm turning it over to Superintendent Patterson for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Acton and School Board. Welcome guests to our June meeting. We've got a busy agenda here. Last month, I think I had a letter from the Michigan Association of School Boards to recognize several members for their outstanding service. So I actually have some pins here and a certificate that was sent by MASB. Trustee Elena Sharp has been recognized for a Certified Board Member Award. Congratulations. And also, we have a number of awards here. Elena Sharp for Award of Merit, Level 2, a minimum of 45 education credits. We have President Acton for completing the Certified Board Member Award Program. Congratulations. We have President Acton, Level 2, Award of Merit for 45 educational credits as well. Marilyn Acton, Level 3, Award of Distinction is awarded for 4 200 or 300 level courses and a minimum of 208 educational credits for the Award of Distinction. We have former President Shalonda Hunt for Level 4 Master Board Member Award, 9 200 or 300 level courses and a minimum of 368 educational courses. And we have former board member Cheryl Simonetti, Level 4 Board Member Award, 9 200 or 300 level classes. And so just congratulations again for the extra mile there and for your awards. Always like to start the meetings with a celebration. Also, quick celebration. We celebrated the Juneteenth holiday, so I want to give a special shout out to Kelly Crum for serving on the City of Jackson, puts together a fantastic program. So I was able to join a couple sessions at Spring Arbor University, a gracious host, as well as the City of Jackson on just great things happening in the community. The community was out full force. I saw a lot of Vikings out there. I think the great majority of the scholarship award recipients are present and past Vikings. So that was a beautiful celebration. Just a friendly reminder that next month will be the superintendent's mid-year evaluation during the regular scheduled board meeting. So I will be sending information to you all in advance of the July meeting. And so that may take a little bit of extra time. We will review the superintendent goals that the board has established. And so this is required as far as the superintendent's evaluation to do a checkpoint. And so I sent out another communication today. That's something that the board has asked me to do, is to keep them regularly updated on the domains and the board goals. So that's what I try to communicate regularly. And if there's any other feedback that you all have for me, that would be the appropriate time so we can document that. I will be sharing kind of end of the school year data leading into next year and how those goals will align with student achievement. There's bond goals, there's attendance goals, all the things that we've established. So this is just a reminder there that that will take place in July at the regular scheduled board meeting. And so that concludes the superintendent's report. At this time, we do have a board vacancy. I want to publicly thank Trustee Cheryl Simonetti for her service to Jackson Public Schools. She's been a longtime Viking and served us very well. Unfortunately, she moved out of the area, so she was not able to finish her term. So we've posted the position for trustee, which we're going to interview tonight. I believe we have 6 candidates to interview, so we'll call your names at this point in time. And just a point of clarity, the candidate will finish out the rest of this year, but because the election is still open where people can bid and the regular election in November, the person who's appointed today will only finish out the 26th year, and then they'll have an opportunity to run for that seat in the November election, okay? So at this time, I'm gonna call Indiria Sumner, if you're present. If I'm saying your name correctly, Indiria Sumner. Okay. Not seeing Indiria, maybe they will attend later. Next is Christopher Locke. Christopher Locke doesn't appear to be present either. The next candidate is Angeline Patton. Board members, I believe you have their letter of interest that they shared, so that's actually one of the board questions for you to review. If you have any questions, something that they shared in their letter of interest, and I'll let President Acton kind of explain if you're going to read the questions or do a round robin. But we have 4 questions per candidate, and our goal is to try, last time we had a vacancy, this board kind of identified a first choice, maybe a close second. And so I'll leave that up to you all to deliberate again, but if you need any support at that time, please let me know, but we will turn it over to President Acton for the interview. Welcome.
Welcome. So I think we should do a round robin. So I'll go first with the questions, and then Derek would go next, and then Elaine, and then back. Okay, so welcome. I'm so glad that you came tonight and are interested in being on the board, Angeline. So the first candidate question, please take a few minutes to introduce yourself and tell us how your background and experiences make you a good fit to serve on this Board of Education.
Okay, is the mic on?
Yes, it's on.
My name is Angeline Patton. I'm a native of Jackson, Michigan, and alumni from Jackson High, class of '87. I actually, in my professional world, I am Associate Director of Compliance and Training at Western Michigan University, and I also was an Assistant Director at Michigan State University for over 23 years. I come with the education to make sure I remove those financial barriers for students and educate our staff as well as our community on the financial aid opportunities that the students have. I make sure that we are in regulations with the federal, state, and institutions. And I definitely make sure that we don't violate any regulations so we don't get any federal findings or lose any federal fundings. So I'm kind of like the gateway keeper to make sure that we abide by all the rules and regulations and make sure we advocate for our students and hear our students' voices and make sure those voices are heard to educate them to a higher level.
Thank you.
The reason why I'm interested in this position is because I feel that the students need to have a voice at the table to be heard. We need to be transparent with our students and make sure that we open up any lines of communication and help those so no child is left behind.
Thank you. So based on the candidate letter of interest, this is a, we're going to, okay, sorry. I was going to read all of them. I was going to read all of them. I was going to town.
I actually recommended that Marilyn just do all the questions, so it was kind of funny. Good evening.
Good evening.
Based on the candidate letter of interest that the board has read and reviewed, are there any clarifying questions for the candidate?
Would you be willing to run for election in November? Why or why not?
I never give up on a challenge. I feel that I bring a lot to the table and I have a lot to offer. So I hope people can see me for what my worth is. I'm very active in the community. You probably see me at Juneteenth also. So I don't stop when someone puts a roadblock. That's just another challenge and a hurdle for me to get over. So.
As we prepare to make our final decision, would you like to ask any of us questions or leave us with any closing remarks?
Yes, I have one question. Knowing that, can you guys hear me? I'm sorry. Knowing that all the schools are, or majority of the schools are facing that negative enrollment impact, and the school of choice have impacted a lot of districts, what is the 3-year plan or 2-year plan or 5-year plan that we have to try to get the pupils back into the school? And also looking at the budget cuts, have we did any measures here in the Jackson area to see if those are impacting the academics of the students?
I think you were part of the strategic planning process, so that's starting to lay out kind of our vision for the next 3 to 5 years, and included in that is what we can do to address enrollment. So I think that maybe was kind of the second part of the question with school of choice and with some of the other population constraints that we've had just in the community. I think that overall, that's what we're looking to address one of the things we're looking to address out of the strategic plan.
And I would say we passed the largest bond millage in the state. And so I think what we're doing is really amazing because we're going to have so many new and innovative things here at Jackson Public Schools. I think it's going to be a real big draw. And Jeremy is a really hard worker. He's everywhere and he's a really good recruiter. So I just think we're in really good hands with the new superintendent.
I have a follow-up question to my question number 2. I guess I would be interested in what do you perceive are the biggest challenges that the district faces, and how would you work with this board to address them?
I think preparing our students for the next level is one of the hurdles that I see. When I see our students come into Western and also when they transitioned into MSU, they didn't have the proper study skills. And I seen a lot of them fall off, and that was heart-wrenching. So what I did is went behind the scenes, and if I knew they had affiliation with Jackson, Michigan, I offered them other avenues to take, and I helped them to navigate the system, to learn how to study, got them with mentors, mentees, and also made sure that they understood the transition between high school and college was different. And it was like a fish out of water, and tried to help and lead them to the water. I couldn't make them drink the water, but I could lead them to the water. And I think that's our biggest hurdle here is not understanding the second level. They understand the JCEC, but when they get to a bigger 4-year institution, they're a little lost.
Thank you so much, Angeline. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, we welcome Lisa Groom.
Welcome, Lisa.
Well, thank you.
So Keisha's going to start us out with the first question.
Good evening, Ms. Groom.
Good evening.
Please take a few minutes to introduce yourself and tell us your background, how your background and experiences make you a good fit to serve on this Board of Education.
Okay. First of all, thanks so much for the opportunity. Appreciate it. I am a graduate of Jackson Public Schools. I am a longtime member of the community. I have a personal investment in the district's success, care deeply about ensuring that our students have the same opportunities that helped me build a successful career and life. I really value preparation and consistency. I'm not afraid to do homework, never was, and not afraid to ask hard questions. I bring a combination of professional experience and community perspective in my career. Right now at Consumers Energy, I manage complex projects. I work with diverse stakeholders, help people navigate difficult decisions. I've learned how to analyze information, ask thoughtful questions, build consensus among people who tend to have different viewpoints, and I understand the importance of governance and accountability and long-term planning. And I think those are really important as part of a board.
Thank you. So based on the candidate letter of interest that the board has read and reviewed, are there any clarifying questions for the candidate?
I have a lot of questions, but kind of limited. One of the questions that I had
Ms.
is.
Groom, that question I think was for the board. Her questions are going to
Oh, I
come a
beg
little
your
later.
pardon.
Is that correct?
That's okay, you're good.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. My question is, what are the biggest challenges that we have as a district, and how will you work with the board to address them?
Thank you. As I have reviewed Jackson's data, I think that literacy and student outcomes and the successful implementation of that amazing bond program stand out as important opportunities.
Would you be willing to run for election in November? Why or why not?
I think my focus over the next few months is learning the role and learning what the board is working on, and then at that point in time, determining if running in the election is something that would be wise. Sure.
As we prepare to make our final decision, would you like to ask any of us any questions or leave us with any closing remarks?
That's the part that I,
Yes.
okay, there we go. What qualities make an effective board member, in your opinion?
I think collaboration is important as any board member. I think consistency of being able to trust somebody and be able to know kind of where they're going to be at, and be able to engage in open and honest dialogue. And I think since both of those are C's, I'll say courage too. The courage to make tough decisions, because we face a lot of challenges as a district, and sometimes we have to make tough decisions around discipline, around the budget, around staffing, and various things that we address. So
The three
I'll add to that,
Cs.
Ms. Groom. So the role of the board member is to ask questions, lots and lots of questions. So one of the best skill sets or talents or whatever that a person can bring to this seat is to be inquisitive. No one board member knows everything. You mentioned you have some experience in governance, so you know that when you sit in this seat, whoever sits in this seat, you simply have just one vote. And the best way to get something accomplished is to figure out how to count to that 4. But sometimes the best way to accomplish that as well is through being inquisitive, asking lots of questions, digging deep, not just accepting a surface answer, but asking lots of questions. Never knowing it all. Asking the students, those people who are closest to the issue, what is the issue as you see it? Why aren't you coming? Ask the parents, what's the concern? Sometimes we can sit in this seat or any seat and think we kind of got a handle on it. But the people who are dealing with it, are in the midst of it, those are the individuals who actually have the answers. So I think that one of the best things that a board member can be is inquisitive.
And I would say, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tab. I was going to say having thick skin.
I agree with Marilyn, but I would say being open, being one of the newer board members, I think openness to a lot of continued learning and understanding, and as Trustee Hamilton mentioned, digging, but also open to the voices of our students, of our parents, be approachable, make people in community want to come and talk to you, and just make them feel like you're here to be their voice.
I guess that's it. Oh,
I was just going to say, I agree with everything everybody said. I would reiterate just the openness, the curiosity, and humility of there's just so much we don't know when we're sitting in the seat, and your initial response or your knee-jerk response once you listen and learn can change a lot. So being willing to know that you're going to have the humility to have to ask and learn from other people.
I love to hear that everybody felt that curiosity kind of along the line was very important and that the focus is on the students.
Thank you so much, Ms. Groom.
Thank you.
Next, we will invite William Baird.
No, it's not. Now it is.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Baird. Welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
Who's next? And Elena?
Good evening, Mr. Baird. Please take a few minutes to introduce yourself and tell us how your background and experiences make you a good fit to serve on this Board of Education.
My name is William Baird. I have been a lifelong resident of Jackson, Michigan. I have two sons that graduated from Jackson High School and have gone on to college and have done very well. I have been actively involved in the bonds, the strategic committee. If you look at the letter, you'll notice that I also have been active in the Jackson High Ambassadors Dinner. I can't remember how many years, but I think it's like 14 years. I am part of the Big Brothers Big Sisters. I have actively been involved in that for probably over 14 years. I have a spouse that is involved, or a teacher, in the Montessori school. I have had a family member who was part of the school. She was the principal. I have family members who are teachers. I actively make sure that I'm a part, because the kids are the most important thing for the school. I would like to see that the community, the board are all on the same page to benefit the school as well as the teachers and the kids.
Thank you. So this is the board question. Based on the candidate letter of interest that the board has read and reviewed, are there any clarifying questions for the candidate?
I have one. What are the biggest challenges we have as a district, and how will you work with the board to address them?
I think unity can be part of the challenge with any district. Quite honestly, I think that one of the challenges has been in the past transparency with the board itself, being on the same page. I think when I listen to parents or educators, having more parent involvement, I think we put too much emphasis saying that it's always the school. I think we also need to put some ownership on the kids who are being raised. You consider the fact of the literacy and things of that nature. That starts at home. And I think as a whole, if we can work together as a community, we'd be a stronger school. That answer your question?
Would you be willing to run for election in November? Why or why not?
I don't think it's negotiable. I think that if you're going to take this role, that you should be going on and running for November. I don't know why you wouldn't, simply because you're filling this position and you have an interest in supporting the school district. And if you really believe in it, whatever challenges you may have, that's just part of being a board. That's just part of the nature of your role. You should want to be running in November. Say that again? Yes.
As we prepare to make our final decision, would you like to ask us any questions or leave us with any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I would. As board members, working as a board, what is your biggest challenge working together? And you're, Tabitha, you're relatively new. I'd like to see your perspective and see what your thoughts are on how things have gone since you've been on the board and what have been some of the challenges.
I don't think I've
If there are any.
experienced like a hard concrete wall challenge, if I'm honest. I think in working with the current board members, I have had a lot of conversation and there's an appreciation for differing perspective. Down to myself and President Acton yesterday going kind of back and forth over some things. And it was the appreciation and we still found a path forward. So I think where things seemed quite contentious when we all started running for the board last year or back in 2024, I feel like there has been movement. I feel like I've been able to experience that movement and see more cohesion and less challenges. I mean, I think they're going to always be differences, but I think there's a better appreciation for a differing perspective.
Marilyn, when you came on the board, what was your primary reason for being on the board?
So I started thinking I'm an armchair quarterback, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I wanted to see what was going on. Actually, I wanted to see where my money was going. That's actually why. And I started to come to every board meeting in 2022. And then I realized that my passion really is for kids. I'm a therapist. I usually just do children. And I really campaigned on reading, writing, and arithmetic. So that's really, I wanted to just make a difference, but I really did want to see where my money's going. And I'm really thankful that we have someone like a Marcus. And that's why I thought it was amazing. You have 32 years of banking knowledge. And wow.
And I'm retired. I'm a retired banker, so I was in it for 32 years. I've dealt with numbers. I've dealt with people. I did the hiring, the firing. I've gone on business development calls and things of that nature. Keisha, you've been on the board for quite a while. What's your experience been?
It's been pretty good experience.
And what would you say the positive pros and cons have been for you?
Pros are definitely our students and their families. I absolutely love our students and their families, especially those that are vulnerable. I came on the board because of those vulnerable folks whose voices were often not heard as much. So being able to listen to them, have lots of conversations with them, represent them at this board table has been a huge pro for me.
Elena, I know that you've been on the board for probably, almost 2 years now? So what advice would you have for me if I was selected?
I guess my biggest advice would be just, and not to beat a dead horse, but just to be curious and open and humble. There's so much, as an educator, even I felt like I knew a lot coming in, and there's just such a vast, whether it's finances or policy, there's just so much that we don't know. So being willing to ask questions and listen and just kind of take it slow, get to know your other board members in the cabinet, who you can go to when there are certain questions that you have, and to be open about your own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to decisions that we're making.
Okay. And Derek, what recommendations would you have for me?
I think patience is a virtue, and that it takes time to change systems and to work towards kind of a vision that you lay out with the rest of the board, and that is aided by being able to develop relationships not only with the board but with staff members, administrators, being able to go through the different buildings. One of the things that I really find pretty incredible about JPS is the energy across the district, that everyone is so bought in to showing up and pouring themselves into helping our students to be successful. And that, I think, resonates from the classrooms all the way up to the board here, and continuing to be passionate and putting in the work, and working well with, as Tabitha said, working well with others and being able to disagree without being disagreeable. And we have an incredible amount of diversity on this board right now. And I think the biggest challenge is probably with all of us. I'm trying to find the time to, with all the different things and all the things that we have going on, to continue to show up for not only JPS, but for each other as well. And I can appreciate that. Even Marilyn talking with me on the phone for like 40 minutes today. So, yeah, I think those are some of the things that I would share.
All right, thank you.
I also find it really interesting that you flipped this interview around and you're just interviewing all of us. This is kind of cool.
I did a lot of that in 32 years.
Thank you, Mr. Baird.
No, thank you.
At this time, we welcome Tyshawn Gray.
Turn the micro. Yep.
Boom.
Welcome, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you for coming. I forgot whose turn it is. Is it Keisha's? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Gray. Please take a few minutes to introduce yourself and tell us how your background and experiences make you a good fit to serve on this Board of Education.
Well, my name is Tyshawn Gray. I am a recent graduate of Jackson High, class of 2026. Being a recent graduate of Jackson High allows me to have a unique perspective in terms of students, as like I just went through the system, K through 12. I've always been a JPS kids, but outside of just being able to see how when we implement something, it affects students on a more personal and direct level, as in like directly affecting their lives and how they operate. I've also had the opportunity to serve on numerous boards, both within school clubs, within the city, and for nonprofit organizations that have given me a perspective that is not necessarily bound by my age, because I'm quite young, I'm only 18, but my experience with these boards has not only introduced me to concepts and mindsets that I probably wouldn't have if I hadn't had the opportunities to get involved, but it also shaped how I personally see the world and myself and how I interact with it, as in being more mindful and conscious of what I'm doing and how I'm seeing it, because actions matter.
Great, thank you. So based on the candidate letter of interest that the board has read and reviewed, are there any clarifying questions for the candidate?
I have one. Good evening, Tyshawn. Given that you're a recent graduate and that after graduation, are you going to college?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you see being a board member compounding with going to college? What does that look like for you?
Well, I'm attending MSU, and that's less than an hour away. I've always planned to stay active within our community. This gives me the opportunity to do that on a not necessarily a more direct level, but more in a way that I'm able to give back to the people who have brought me up and given me opportunities to grow. Outside of that, my major is finance. However, as you know, or you don't know, I have a great interest in public policy. And this gives me the opportunity to have a place to learn and grow that not only am I familiar with, but I also could make an impact.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tyshawn. What are the biggest challenges that we face as a district, and how will you work with the board to address them?
One of the biggest challenges I've noticed, and mostly from conversations I've had with my mom and other family members who have graduated from JPS, is that we had a big enrollment drop. And while it's like flat now, it's always good to have the mindset of how can we increase enrollment. And we have the bonds, and we're making progress with our infrastructure. However, we also need to think about how we're marketing our school. For example, I am a middle child. I have an older sibling and a younger sibling. We're all 2 years apart. My parents made the active decision to send my brother to Lumen Christi because they thought it would be a better place for him to learn and grow. I had the choice, and so I chose Jackson High. I mean, all my friends were going here, and I wanted to stay with people I was familiar with. However, even though I was here and my experience has always been good and was genuinely great through JPS, my younger sister made the choice to go to Northwest because of the preconceived notions of our school district. In her words, she thought it was ghetto, and so she decided not to come here. I think a big thing that we need to work on fixing is our reputation, both at a high school level, but our complete school district level, right? When people hear that Jackson High has all these fights or all the ghetto kids go there, it shapes whether they want to send their kids. And so, yeah, we have new people moving in. The city's working on building new apartments and places for people to live, affordable living. However, unless we fix how the community sees us, we won't be able to necessarily increase our enrollment. And if we can't increase our enrollment, there's little opportunities to improve both reading scores, math scores, and test scores. And I will even say this, I can pass the test. I'm great at if it's like a class test, I'm good at it. State testing and national testing, I don't perform nearly as well as I do in my classes. And that's not to say that what I was taught is necessarily wrong. It's that we prepare students right now to go into a classroom and just get through. However, what's getting through for us is not what the state thinks our students should be able to do, or on a national level, right? We perform below average. And that's an issue that we have to address. Or the notion that Jackson High isn't as good as other schools within this community will remain. I will say that we're lucky. Like, I love Jackson High because I had the opportunity to go into multiple AP classes that I know my brother didn't have at Lumen Christi, and I definitely know my sister doesn't have. But our biggest issue is our reputation. And for me, I'm someone who's always been involved with the community and probably always will be involved with the community. And if I come in, I would like to focus on how we can improve our community engagement and how people see us. Like Kelly Crum, for example, she's involved with Juneteenth. That's something I didn't know, but when I saw her, I was like, oh, that's a familiar face. That's good. It's just little things like that that can help shape how the community sees us now.
Would you be willing to run for election in November? Why or why not?
The thing is, I've always already filed and I paid my $100. And like my mom says, money does not grow on trees. So yes, I'm willing to run. But outside of that, I already said it, I want to stay involved with the community, especially because a lot of the things I'm involved in now, I have either already termed out or will be terming out. And so for me, it's the next opportunity to grow and to learn from people who are doing something I eventually want to do. Mm-hmm.
So I hear you're going to Michigan State. So are you going to keep your residency in Jackson?
Yeah, my primary
Okay.
residency will remain in Jackson.
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So as we prepare to make our final decision, would you like to ask us any questions or leave us with any closing remarks?
Sure. I guess my biggest question is that with something like this, right, it's you're on a school board. How do you actively try to engage with the community and students on a more personal level rather than them just seeing you as figures here?
My kids are at JPS. My daughter just graduated. So I think before showing up as a board member, I show up as a parent. I like to have conversations with community members. I work very heavily in community too. So JPS is typically at the forefront of conversation or, things like that. So I think there's a way that you just make yourself approachable and maybe even remove the board side of it. You are an alumni. You have family that still goes here. Before you lean into the the trustee side of things, you lean into the human side of things.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Mhm.
Okay, this concludes the interview process. So I also want to lift up one more item before I conclude the superintendent's report. Before we get to the consent agenda, I want to put a face with a name. And the human resources, we are making a motion to bring Aldair Castro on as our Director of Transportation. He's giving us a little wave, big wave for everybody so we know who Mr. Castro is. He's been with us for a period of time with Met's Transportation, and we're making the recommendation to bring him into Jackson Public Schools. He's been a fantastic leader. He's gotten very involved in our community, and we've done a lot of different events and activities to lift up our transportation department. And so I just wanted to put a name with a face and say thank you for being here tonight. This concludes the superintendent's report.
So agenda item number 6, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Any deliberation? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item number 7, citizens requesting to address the board. Okay, we don't have anyone tonight. So we are moving into number 9, because we moved number 8 to an action item. So number 9, 2526-108, Neola update, second reading, and Jeremy will present this item.
Thank you. So this is a second reading. A couple of months ago, we had Craig Haugen from Neola come down and met with our policy committee. And so we went through and we had some replacements, some new policies, and some changes. This was shared as a discussion item back in May and is here for a second reading and action today. So the district perspective is to make a motion to support the Neola policies as updated.
So do I have a motion to approve?
Support.
Okay. Any deliberation? So I'm going to be a no on policy 2417 and 2418. I think these both conflict with presidential executive orders. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. Agenda item 2526-109, the SIS change, and Marcus will present this item.
All right, so currently the district uses a student information system. Currently we use PowerSchool to manage our critical student data. It's used to record things like enrollment, demographics, scheduling, grading, state reporting, and a lot more. Over the last several years, costs for PowerSchools have increased while support, as we found, has decreased. We have been looking at another SIS system called MyStarQ for a couple of years now, which has local support through Wayne Risa. It is part of a consortium managed both by Wayne Risa and Oakland County Schools. We've completed demos. We completed recently an on-site visit with a MyStar district in the Detroit area, done some reference checks with other districts. And at this time, we are recommending to switch from PowerSchool to MyStar. We did discuss this last month at the meeting. Couple of notes, it is a 12-month transition, so it's not one that we take lightly or overnight. So the go-live date, the planned go-live date would not be until July of 27. That would give the district plenty of time to transition our data, inform all of our staff, train our staff, inform the public, the community, the parents of this change. And some of the things that the team liked about the MyStar system, I think at the end of the day, there's a few things. One of them being that it's very user-friendly, right? And, it's very easy for parents, for staff, secretaries to use to create their own reports. We're currently, our tech department has to generate and create custom reports that are needed through PowerSchools, and it's a complicated process. With MyStar, for example, you click a bunch of drop-down boxes to select the data you want, and you'll have your report in minutes or however long it takes. Another key component of this is there is a cost savings. So right now, a lot of things with PowerSchools is more of an a la carte menu style. If you want something, you're gonna have to pay for it. It's an extra module or an add-on. A lot of the same services are offered in the base pricing of MyStar. One of the biggest examples of this is, if you recall, we purchased through grant funds an MTSS module called Insights and Analytics through PowerSchools. It's almost a $40,000 module. It's included in the base pricing of MyStar, very similar MTSS module. Just one example of some of the cost savings for this. Most SISs have similar functionality, so you're really looking at pricing, support, and user-friendliness. So at this time, we are recommending switching or beginning the transition from PowerSchool to MyStar in the summer of 2027.
Do I have a motion to approve? Any deliberation? Can you tell us how much cost savings approximately it would be to the district?
Yep. So a lot of these software packages are based, there's a fixed price per FTE per student, right? So we don't have of course, our fall enrollment number, right? We're planning a flat enrollment. So to give a general idea, we can be expected, an estimate for the first year would be approximately $76,000 for the MyStar system. When we did purchase the PowerSchool MTSS module, which is included with MyStar, we paid roughly $110,000 for all of the components of PowerSchool. I think that was a couple, 2-3 years ago. So of course, those prices rise as well annually. It works out right now to be about a $35,000 to $40,000 savings.
I just have a couple logistic questions, I suppose. I know over the summer is a lot of scheduling for your secondary school, so is that going to interfere? I know PowerSchool is used to do a lot of the scheduling for students. Is that something that's going to hold scheduling up? Or
so again, it's a 12-month transition period. So next week we'll probably start the logistics of having a kickoff call, coming up with when the timelines for transitioning data, training staff, training on parent apps and things like that. So the intent is we'll be using PowerSchool all through next year. We would most likely sunset it at 6/30 at the end of that year and switch over July 1st. So the school year of 27-28 would be the fall of 27-28 school years when the first use of MyStar would take place.
thank you. Does that also streamline with like the district all call, like the communications via text and I don't know if they pull that data from PowerSchool.
So we will be changing that too, along with
Okay.
when we change this. So we'll just use a different system, but we won't lose any time on it. It all comes over at the same time. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
There's like a migration of
Yeah,
that. And, okay,
yeah.
perfect.
And like you said, I mean, this is a 12-month.
Right.
So we will hit the points that we can at the times we can. And certainly none of us would go through in the summer without any of that. But it makes sense for your question, does.
I saw on the MyStarQ website too, they have like a local, almost like a professional development for, I guess, all aspects of the school. Are they going to come on site for some of this implementation or?
It'll really depend on as far as for what, right? They do offer, Wayne Risa has a ton of professional development, both a lot virtually now. They have recorded webinars. They do offer some at Wayne Risa. I'm not sure. They do go out to districts and/or ISD central locations where districts will go to. It'll just depend on what it's for, who the audience is, and what the training involves, I guess. Mhm.
Any other deliberation? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item 2526-110, bus purchase. Marcus will present this item.
All right, so we have talked about this a couple of times already at finance meetings and last month at the board table. We want to be on a bus rotation or bus replacement schedule to kind of keep our fleet in good working order. We've identified about 10 to 12 older propane buses, meaning they're more than 10, 11 years old at this point and starting to get to the point where we should look at replacing them so we don't have costly full engine repairs or lose a bus to not being able to be used just due to whatever. You do have major breakdowns as these things age out. We've been contacted by Holland Bluebird. Our entire fleet are made up of Bluebird buses. They have several off-lease buses coming available this summer. They're 2024 model years, so they're quite new. They have pretty good mileage on them, so we'll be able to get another good 8 to 12 years use out of these. Initially, we had talked about 1 to 2 buses a year, depending on how the budget looked. As you saw earlier this evening, I have budgeted potentially for 2 replacement buses in this coming year, and that is built into that $1.1 million use of fund balance. So it is already accounted for should the board approve that this evening. So at this time, we would recommend purchasing 2 of those off-lease buses. They're about $83,500 each, so the total is $167,376. For reference, a brand-new propane bus would cost about $150,000 to $200,000 for one.
Do I have a motion to approve? Support? Any deliberation?
Just really quick, what's the mileage on those? I remember you mentioned it at the
Great
last meeting.
question. They range anywhere between 20 and 40,000 miles, depending on which vehicle we're looking at. We've obviously asked to have them hold the 2 lowest mileage buses.
Thank you.
How much is propane?
So propane, we have an advantage here in this district. If you've been out to the transportation yard, you've seen we have a large propane tank on site, so we're able to bid that out and purchase it in bulk. So we have a contract that guarantees us a price each year. It'll change. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right now we're paying right around $1 a gallon, I believe, ish. Yep.
That's awesome. Wow, thank you. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you. So any other deliberation? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. 2526-111, Stormwater Management Resolution. Marcus will present this item.
All right, and we did bring this last month for discussion, as you remember. So as part of this district stormwater permitting process, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE as it's called, requires a resolution from the board. Previously, it was just a sign off from district administration, but that has changed to a board sign off, just to be reviewed and signed by the board, approving that we're following the state stormwater management program. We do contract with Arch Environmental to help manage that process for us. That really just centers around any building within the city limits and how we manage stormwater runoff.
Do I have a motion to approve? Any deliberation? Is that why we can't have like fundraisers on campus because for like washing cars? Is that kind of one of the things you can't do?
Correct, you can't wash vehicles on district property within the city limits.
Okay, that's okay. Just wanted to check. I think it's funny. Okay, so any other deliberation? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. 25, 26, 112, or 26, 27 budget adoption, and Marcus will present this item.
All right, so again, we'll just summarize. Every year, the board is required by law to adopt a budget prior to the beginning of each fiscal year. We have held our public hearing earlier this evening, invited public comments on the proposed budget for next year. I've summarized the millage rates down below, which we went over in the budget hearing earlier. So at this time, we recommend adoption of the proposed millage rate and the budget resolutions, which are attached to this agenda item. You can again see by each fund the amount of revenue we intend to collect, the current fund balance, which will give you the amount that is available to appropriate, and then the amount that we plan to spend, which gets you down to the proposed fund balance, ending fund balance for next July.
Do I have a motion to approve? Any deliberation? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda item 25, 26, 113. The 2025-26 final amendment. Marcus will present.
All right, so as you know, we amend our budget 3 times during the year. You know, as we get some of those enrollment numbers in, we kind of, most of our expenditures come in, some of those final utility bills and retirement and staffing changes throughout the year that happen. So we have a clear picture of where we think we're going to wind up at the end of the year. The attachment you have here will show that progression through the amendment process this year. Again, last June, we thought we would be using $2 million of fund balance. Then we are, through our amendments, you know, we were able to narrow that down to about 1.6 million. As we get close to the end of the year, we feel like we're going to be closer to $1.4 million. Of course, that's not going to be the final number. We'll have that when our auditors present in the fall. We still have year-end bills coming in for the next couple of weeks that we'll be paying and things like that. But as you've seen over the last few years, we have wound up being pretty close to our final amendment when we close the books through the audit process. So at this time, we would recommend approving the final budget for 25-26. One thing of note is you'll notice our fund balance, projected fund balance percentage increases to a little over 19% fund balance, and that's due to the lowering of the expenditures we feel we're going to be spending this year. Just again, going to show you how we are trying our best to be good stewards of the taxpayers' resources.
Do I have a motion to approve? Any deliberation? Personally, I think that's fantastic, 19.22%. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. The next agenda item is 25-26.107. Go ahead.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to call Attorney Brendan Beer to the microphone. So we had this on the item for a discussion item, but it has been changed to an action item today. Sarah is going to pass out some information that's been shared, and Attorney Beer and I have talked extensively about this. I think the board has received some communication, and we wanted some legal clarity on this, as this has not been a topic that I don't think any of us have really participated in, since it was so long ago that we sold Allen School. So thank you for being here this evening.
My pleasure. I think the microphone's on. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So why don't I give you a little bit of background so you have an understanding of kind of what you're being asked to consider so that you can give it some good thought. Among the materials you were handed, I believe, is this covenant deed, okay? This is the deed that was provided by Jackson Public Schools to a limited liability company called DJW Real Estate Company in 2005, okay? This is the deed whereby we transferred title to Allen School to this development company. Within the covenant deed, there are several items if you turn to Exhibit B, okay? Those are, number one is permitted exceptions, which has to do with exceptions within the chain of title that they're accepting. The development agreement in number 2 of Exhibit B contains essentially covenants or restrictions relative to how the property can be utilized, okay? And then in action item 3, or C, you'll see under what is 2C of the development agreement, there is a right of first refusal. Essentially, what this did is when JPS conveyed title to the developer of Allen School, it did 2 things. 1, it placed restrictions on the future use of that building. And 2, it afforded itself an opportunity to rebuy the building if it was ever sold or transferred from DJW Real Estate Company to anyone else, okay? Candidly, these are actions that Jackson Public Schools has taken for quite some time now. We have similar type restrictions and rights of first refusal with other school buildings that we have sold over the years. Primarily, they're there to protect Jackson Public Schools from having its buildings be acquired or developed into charter school-related activities. This way, we have some control over what our school buildings, if we no longer have use for them, are used for. This property was held by DJW Real Estate Company with little to no activity for approximately 20 years. At a certain point, the property was transferred to a company called Allen Lofts. Allen Lofts is a company that is now engaged in efforts to develop that entity. It hopes to develop both residential housing as well as a limited commercial development of that parcel. In preparing to do that, they have discovered this right of first refusal, which gives the investors a fair amount of pause because A, there's some argument that the right of first refusal was breached when we were not notified of the transfer that took place in 2022. And 2, arguably it still exists today, which may impair their ability to transfer title to the property post-development. And so what they've requested is that the board consider relinquishing that right of first refusal, essentially remedying any potential breach, as well as permitting them to move forward without the restraints provided by the right of first refusal. Candidly, there is some discrepancy about the consideration that would have been required to obtain the right of first refusal. The deed to Allen Lofts was for $1. The problem with that is the owner of the previous entity is still involved in this project. And so he is still one of the members of Allen Lofts. And their argument is that the consideration wasn't just the $1 for the property transfer. He also obtained a membership interest in the new development company, which holds considerably more value. And so probably it would have required a significant investment on the part of Jackson Public Schools to exercise that. And what you would get for that is title to Allen Schools. And if that's not part of your future plan, probably that's not the best use of your tax dollars. What I would say to you is that unless you have a plan for Allen School, that this is probably something that makes sense. It would lead to development within the district limits. Residential housing being developed, taxing base being increased, those kinds of things are a benefit to the district. And they're seeking to have the right of first refusal released. There is not a seeking on the part of the developer to release the restricted covenants that are still contained within Section A, which means that they are still willing to live within the terms of those restricted covenants, including limiting it to uses within the city of Jackson's zoning ordinance, and in this case, residential housing and some light commercial development within the facility. I can't speak to you about the viability of the project. I frankly don't know. It may be high, it may not. But what you're being asked to consider as the board is simply looking at this covenant deed and agreeing that that right of first refusal that was placed into the chain of title will be relinquished, and the board will no longer have the ability to buy back the property in the event of a transfer. It's not surprising to me that they need it, quite frankly, having been involved in a number of these projects. Investors, banks, they're not going to want to pump millions of dollars, let alone tens of millions of dollars into a project with something like this clogging up the chain. So I don't find the request unreasonable or surprising, other than its timing, because it seems like it's something they should have addressed years ago. Any questions or concerns from the board relative to what you're being asked? There also should be in the materials you received a very short, which you can read, termination of the right of first refusal. There's not a lot of pomp and circumstance. It's a pretty simple document that just says the Board of Education would be relinquishing that right of first refusal.
So it doesn't sound like we need to worry about a charter school going in. It sounds like they want to develop
No, in my
laws.
opinion, that would still be a violation
Yeah,
of the
but-
restricted covenants. And there is a plan for development
Okay.
that has been circulating for a while that doesn't involve a charter school. It involves residential condominiums and apartments,
Okay,
and also some light retail type commercial.
okay.
And the covenant deed being referenced and the termination of the right of first refusal means that the deed will still be enforced.
That's correct. The deed will remain. They're specifically referenced the right of first refusal contained within that covenant deed, and it provides the library page. The library page you'll find at the top right of that covenant deed, and the numbers will match. That's the covenant deed they're referencing. The deed will still remain within the chain of title, and the restrictions contained therein would still apply.
So if the board is not directing me to entertain a discussion about purchasing Allen Elementary School, the first school where Jeremy Patterson arrived back in 2001 as an elementary teacher, then maybe there will be a motion to.
I'll make a motion.
My suggestion on the motion would be not only that you approve the release of the right of first refusal, but also provide authority to Mr. Patterson to execute any documents necessary to effect that release, such as that right of first refusal.
Madam President, I will move approval of authorizing the signature of the approval of the termination of the right of first refusal, and authorize the superintendent to effectuate any actions necessary to terminate the right of first refusal.
That sounded perfect.
Any support? Any more deliberation? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
And the last, oh wait, how are we doing this? So the last item on our agenda is 2526.114, appointment of board member. So is it, do I have a motion to approve? Or are we doing, so we're going to have a discussion on who our top two finalists.
What's that mean? You want us to tell you who we want, or what's the plan?
Yes, we had discussion prior to, you can name a finalist, just one, or if you're mixed between a 1 and a 2, or whatever the board's desire is. So at this time, we want to come to a consensus so we can make a motion of the person that we think will have the support of the board.
Okay, I'll offer a couple. So my one would be Miss Patton. Some of the things I like about Miss Patton, is her experience at MSU in higher education, her dedication to the community. I really, really love the idea of somebody having been on the other side where our children are going and being able to kind of understand some of the things that we need to focus on a little bit better here so that they can be successful there. So Ms. Patton would be my first choice. I also like Mr. Gray. I absolutely love the idea of having a student, recent student, on the school board. Those closer to the problem are closer to the solution, but often furthest from the resources and power. Having someone who is close to those issues and has some experience on boards and in committees and understands the power of his voice, at least at this age, and willing to use it, to me is very powerful, and I think it'll be very powerful on this board. So my two would be that. I appreciated Ms. Groom as well for how she listened. To me, you know, when you're listening to hear and understand, you get a lot further than when you're kind of listening just to respond. So I appreciated that. I would prefer to have seen Ms. Groom be willing to run again, but I absolutely respect the idea and the perspective around, you know, kind of wanting to see what this is all about first before making that commitment, and the honesty in that. I think that's powerful as well. Mr. Beard, I know he's tried a few different times. I would like to see somebody who's very inquisitive and willing to hear and listen. Sometimes when we're listening to respond, especially I think as school board members, we do ourselves a disservice and the community a disservice because we might think we have the answers. And so I would prefer not that. So again, my first choice would be Ms. Patton. As mentioned, us sending our children on to higher education, her experience in higher education, her experience in finances, her experience in the community, I think are all pluses that we can use on the school board. And also Mr. Gray, I don't think we can go wrong with grooming and supporting and guiding our youth, particularly in this space. So those would be my top two choices, Patton and Gray.
My top two choices would be Tyshawn Gray and Angeline Patton, for reasons very similar to what Trustee Hamilton mentioned. I think what better way to get our youth engaged and caring more about what's going on our board in our district than to have a recent graduate come in and have a seat at the table. I think he's got a lot of great perspective to share. Angeline, because of the role that she has played at Western and at MSU, the fact that she, you know, is supporting students in higher education and recognizing where there are gaps and stepping in and trying to remove some of the barriers there, I think that would be extremely helpful for our board. I also feel like Ms. Patton has also been very involved in the strategic planning and bond work that we've done. So those are my top two.
I want to thank all of the candidates for coming in and showing that you're committed to our students at JPS. We really appreciate that. I know it's a big ask in the middle of summer. That being said, I'm going to say that my two top choices are Mr. Gray and Mr. Baird. Mr. Gray, for the reasons already mentioned here, really would appreciate a student perspective on the board. Mr. Baird, I've just had the pleasure of working with on several occasions when it comes to things like the bond process and the strategic planning. I have really appreciated his insights. I have appreciated his openness and his curiosity. And based on those experiences, I would enjoy serving with him. I think he brings a lot as well. Thank you.
I also want to echo that appreciate everyone that came out and that did apply. Lisa, it was nice to meet you. I think you shared a lot of perspective of being able to navigate difficult decisions, and you know, I think look forward to you continuing, hopefully, to be engaged in more JPS stuff and taking a look at running potentially in the future. I was impressed by Angie for the reasons that Keisha spoke about, of having someone that is connected to higher education. I do think that my top two similar to Elena, would be Mr. Baird and Mr. Gray. Mr. Baird has been active in our efforts here, both with the bond and ambassador dinner and so on and so forth. I think that I was very impressed with Taishan being a younger individual. I think, you know, pleasantly, I guess, surprised and excited by some of the answers that were given to my question on what are the challenges and what are the solutions. And some of that's, you know, some of the response is a little hard to hear, but I think it's pretty spot on that we have, you know, our biggest challenge is around getting more enrollment, and that means dealing with the reputation and the perception that some folks have about Jackson and JPS, and the opportunity that we have to rebuild that. I found particularly informative kind of the solutions around community engagement and the fact that you chose to be here despite some of your siblings going elsewhere. I think that filing for office and paying $100 shows that you're committed, and you know, overall, I think had some of the best answers to the questions, and also intrigued by the perspective to be able to have someone that is young, has engaged in the community, also in student leadership, as we talked about the student engagement policy, that this is someone that has engaged both in the community, but as DECA, I think I saw somewhere that you won an award on like our social or something, but also with the Honor Society and student government. So that would be my top choice, or top two.
So thank you for everybody that came out and that really wants to serve. So my top two are Mr. Baird and Angeline Patton, and this is the reasoning. They show up for everything. Mr. Baird's always here at JPS meetings, and Angeline, she was at the strategic meetings along with Mr. Baird, but and that they're both willing to stay in the game and for the long run. And so those are my top two choices.
I would, just taking a tally here, I would make a motion for Taishan Gray. I counted 4.
Support.
4 and 3.
Do we have some deliberation? So what do we do? Yeah, let's do a roll call. So here, what am I doing? Roll call? Okay. We're going to do a roll call.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Ms. Williams, Ms. Sharp, Mr. Dobies, Ms. Acton.
No. Motion passes. Congratulations, Taishan Gary.
Mr. Gray, can you come forward, please?
So at this time, number 10, agenda item, board comments.
I'll start. So happy summer to our teachers and students and families. Congratulations on a great year, and I hope you all are able to enjoy the summer before we get back started in August. I also wanted to talk a little bit about my whereabouts for the past about 3 months. I have been in graduate school working on my MPA. My name is now Keisha Hamilton, MPA, because I successfully finished that in May with a 3.7 GPA while commuting 2.5 hours a day to work, while also raising my children, my 6 children, as a divorced single parent. Yay, yay, yay. Excellence is something that we do. I have not been uncommitted. I have been trying to survive. I have been trying to live and stay awake for late nights and early mornings, as mentioned, while commuting and in graduate school, and ensuring that I graduate, not only just graduate, but graduate well. That was very important to me. It's always important to me to do very well in what I do, while also raising my babies and taking care of my home. So my commitment to JPS has not waned at all. Again, as mentioned, I just had to finish school, and I finished it successfully. Yay, yay, yay. I'm looking forward to finishing out this year strong. I'll be here through December. That's when my 6-year term will end, and I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I did want the community to at least know where I've been and what's been going on, because I think that was important. You know, you all elected me, and I am accountable to you. But again, that's what's been going on. Again, congratulations, Tyshawn and Ms. Patton. I hope you run.
So, first, congratulations, Tyshawn. Secondly, thank you all for being interested in board seats and filling out the interest information and taking the time to come in tonight. And I hope that I see everybody out there campaigning right along with me and Tyshawn as we go into the election cycle. I better see you. But also congratulations to our board members that received recognition. Elena, or Trustee Sharp, and President Acton. Job well done, ladies. Thank you, Kelly, for all of your hard work with participating with Juneteenth. I think that was an amazing event that brought our community together, and it was so great to see JPS all over downtown Jackson, whether it was graduates, staff, teachers, just everybody. So job well done. And also thank you to my fellow board members for taking the time out of your personal lives and after work to come and do the work that we do. You're appreciated.
Again, I just want sincerely thank you to all of you who came in and had put in your information, interviewed tonight. We really appreciate it. Love to see so many people interested in serving. Congratulations, Mr. Gray. We're glad to have you. And I do sincerely hope the rest of you toss your hat in here in November. I want to take a second just to lift up our cabinet and our superintendent and our Miss Ebersol, our secretary. It's really been on my heart lately that it's really easy to take for granted when people do their job well. And it's really easy to just forget that that's not always normal. And I just personally, anytime that I have a question, you always are there to answer it, but not only that, there's a trust and a faith that I have that you're doing a really excellent job. And I just want to tell you how much that is appreciated and how special I think that is. That is not necessarily a normal thing in districts. So thank you for everything you do just on the normal, because it is definitely above average. So thank you for your excellence, and thank you for modeling that for everybody in the district, our families, and for us on the board. You're very appreciated. Thank you.
Congrats to Ms. Hamilton on your accomplishments. That is a lot of work, and you work really hard, and you should be celebrated for all that you do and for your commitment to JPS as well. Congrats to everyone that applied here tonight, in particular those that made it out to interview and hope to see you continue to engage with JPS and hopefully more of you guys run for a JPS because we have seats up this year as well. And congrats to Tyshawn. You did a great job tonight and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you to Kelly for a wonderful Juneteenth celebration. It was great to see. I saw Tabitha there and the superintendent and some other folks from JPS. So it was great to really see a number of our team down there joining in the celebrations downtown. And finally, congrats once again to Marcus for doing budget things despite the state not doing their budget things. So kudos to you, and hopefully we get some good news out of Lansing that will make you happy.
So I too want to thank everyone that came out, all the interviewees, and congratulations, Mr. Gray. So, sometimes we start at 6 and we're done at 7:37, but today we're done. But sometimes we go much longer. But the thing I wanted to really explain to the public is we really deliberate for hours and hours over this agenda. We Finance committee's an hour, and policy committee a lot of times goes 2 hours. We're on all these committees and a lot of back forth. Marcus, we give you tons of questions about the budget, but there's always a back and forth. I meet with Jeremy, Superintendent Patterson, on Wednesdays for an hour, but we really are doing a lot of work. And I just wanted to make everyone know it's not like just this one thing on a Tuesday. So I just wanted to put that out there. But just really thankful for the work that Superintendent Patterson's doing. He gave us an update, and I couldn't believe he's everywhere. I don't think I would have that type of energy. So I'm just kudos to Superintendent Patterson for just doing an amazing job. So with that, I'm going to read the calendar. July 28th, 2026 is our regular board meeting. Here at 6, and I think, is that a fourth Tuesday? That's a fourth Tuesday. And then do we have a date for the Jackson High School Centennial Committee meeting? Is that the same day or something?
No, we don't. I'm not sure why it made this calendar, but those meetings will now take place in their committee groups.
Okay,
So
all
everybody
right.
will be getting emails for when we held our centennial meeting, broke into groups. Still need people to join those committees. So if you haven't had a chance or you have any questions, feel free to email me. But we had a nice turnout and we've begun some of the conversations around that. There is a meeting this week, but it's just with our senior group, just to make sure that everybody's scheduling the next meetings.
That's why I made this meeting agenda, so we could lift that up again to our community, so they know to reach out to us if they would like to join a committee.
Yes, we're very open to having folks join. We have a very organized group, and we could use a couple of committee chairs. But other than that, we're really starting to roll along with the 2027 100-year celebration. So,
Thanks, Chris. So agenda item number 12, do I have a motion to adjourn? Any deliberation? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Have a good night, everyone.